Hello, everybody. I thought I'll do my second book review for all of you to see. So the book I've chosen is one of my very favorite authors, William Dalrymple. William Dalrymple is a Scottish-born author. He lives 6 months in India and 6 months that's in Delhi and 6 months in Scotland. He writes about Mughal history. That's his forte. So the book that I've chosen today is called White Mughals by William Dalrymple. Some of you must have read it, many of you must have heard about it. So this is a very fascinating book about something which took place in India in the 1780s or 1750s. The exact timings you will read in the book. But I'll tell you a little about what the book is. So we shifted to Dubai in 2008 ending, and 2009 my wife and my kids gifted me this book. It's a beautiful book. So let me tell you the first fact. I'm going to tell you four facts. I mean, four things, not really the story of the book, but four facts about the book. The first fact is, how is a book conceived? So William Dalrymple normally takes about 4 to 5 years to write a book. And being an historian, he spends a lot of his time digging up history. So he describes in the book how he was on a holiday to Hyderabad, and being a historian, he spends a lot of his time in the old bazaars, in the old markets. And there he heard this fascinating love story about the British resident at that time, a gentleman called James Kirkpatrick, and how this James Kirkpatrick actually fell in love with one of the nobleman's daughter. And this nobleman was, of course, I think the prime minister or one of the very important ministers in the Nizam's rule, and her name was Khairunisa. So this is the love story of Khairunisa and James Kirkpatrick. So, and against all odds, how they get married. They have two children, and what happens to them, what happens to Khairunisa, what happens to James Kirkpatrick. This book is about that. So, William Dalrymple describes in detail how he researched on the book and how he got a lot of information in the archives in Delhi, archives in London. But finally, he got a treasure trove of information, which he found in one of the local markets in Hyderabad, and which was one of Khairunisa's cousins in the 1780s or 1800 had written a very detailed account about this whole love story, and that's how he found the details. So this is that love story. So what is so fascinating about a British gentleman falling in love or marrying somebody who's Indian? I mean, the Anglo-Indian community was all that, right? So the fascinating thing was that Khairunisa was from the family of the Sayyids. And if some of you know that the Sayyids are from the first family, from the Prophet's family. So Khairunisa was considered to be, very, very extra parda nashi. I mean, somebody who could not even see a outside person. So fact that both of them fell in love, they got married, and they lived there. So so why is it called White Mughals? If you look at this is James Kirkpatrick in complete Mughal attire and the Indian attire of that time. That's why the book is called White Mughals, picture of two of his children. So the book is a fascinating tale, and let me tell you some little part of the details about this. So I don't know how you describe it, but around that time I was really fascinated about traveling to Hyderabad and trying to discover some of these places. So this gentleman, Kirkpatrick, had built a residency in Hyderabad, and he had built it on the river Musli. And if you know river Musli, now it's a drain in Hyderabad, was a huge river where all the noblemen had their houses. And one of the Prime Minister, Salar Jung, that's the Salar Jung Museum. So that's his house actually. So just opposite that on this side was the residency built by James Kirkpatrick. Now this residency building was a fascinating building which was built on the style of the resident building which is there in Calcutta. So our task as a family was to identify this. Now this building is not really on the popular tourist circuit in Hyderabad. And after I found out a guide and I told him what I want, of course I was seeing all the other things in Hyderabad also. The guide finally found that this building is now actually a school, and that's why it's not very, easily known. So ultimately, we could locate the building. We went in, and I don't have that picture today, but uh, he talks about the fact that because she couldn't see the building from outside, she was so much pardanashi. Kirkpatrick had actually made a marble statue, a marble plaque of this whole building. It's like 15 feet by 10 feet live model. And that model, he had said in the book, is actually lying somewhere on the grounds there. We could actually locate the model, and maybe I'll post a picture with the video. So, of that model, we found the model, it's all broken and lying in the ruins. So that was our, tryst with trying to find the story of white Mughals. The other fascinating fact in the book is about his father. So what happens is when the children, Sahib Alam and Bibi Alam, when they are about 10, 12 years old, 10 years old, they are being sent to London. And the minute they leave Hyderabad, after about 3, 4 days, James actually, is kind of very sick to see his children. He wants to see them before they sail off from Chennai, because they are going to Chennai and then taking the ship to, London. He sets back on horseback, falls sick somewhere around around Bangalore, rests there for about 6, 7 days, recuperates, and finally lands up in Chennai. And you can imagine in those days, the whole trip must have taken him, let's say, a month or so, only to realize that the ship had sailed 5 days before. So he doesn't see his children for the last time. He falls sick again, takes a ship back to Calcutta to meet his boss, who's that time the viceroy. And in that process of falling ill and, in all that process, he dies in Calcutta. So his father, the Mr. Kirkpatrick, who was nicknamed the Handsome Colonel, after many years came back and erected a small plaque in St. James Church in Calcutta. So anybody who is in Calcutta, you can go and see the plaque. So in one of our trips, we went to see the plaque. I mean, just nostalgia. And this book is so powerful that you see references of this in your everyday life even today. So it's surprising. What is the reference to this book today, right? I don't know. Many of you must have noticed. I think a couple of years back, Vidya Balan, she went to the Cannes festival, and her dress was criticized by few but loved by few, and she had dressed like an Indian princess. The dress designing was by Sabyasachi, and when asked, Sabyasachi said that this dress is inspired by Khairunisa of white Mughals. So that's the reference to Khairunisa in our today's life. So if you have the time, please go through this book. I mean, find the time to read it. White Mughals, it's a very, very fascinating account of love and betrayal in that times in India. White Mughals, William Dalrymple. Thank you.